All right, I think we're live, Kyle. So
All
my name
right,
is Amar Shah, and this is a
Kyle.
good,
Happy New
yeah,
Year,
Kyle,
everybody.
yeah. And
2022. Here we are.
2022, we should have one of those streamers and like or sparklers or whatever they call it. What did you do over the holidays, Kyle?
Stayed at home. Tried not to spread Omicron to anybody,
Huh?
and yeah, I got a lot of time at home with the family, so it was good. And I blinked, and 2021 tax season's almost here. So
Oh God, yeah,
yeah.
you're about to get busy, and actually, that's the topic of this week's conversations with Kyle episode. We're going to look through the tax documents that you'll be receiving here shortly from your brokerage accounts and investments and as such. But before we get started, we got to obviously do our lovely disclosures that we do every time, which I got an update on this, Kyle, that I can give you later. But for the audience, we haven't taken your specific accounts into account. We haven't taken your situation into account. This is just educational material, and we haven't done any client professional agreement with either Kyle or myself. Kyle, would you say that covers it?
That covers it. Yep, just an education piece, and just trying to be here to provide some help for you guys as tax season approaches. So
Yeah. So let's step back. So what's it like? Maybe January or 10th, you'll start getting some tax documentation through middle of February, right? Is that usually the average time frame?
yep. So this is the hot time for forms to really start rolling in. I think employers are required to issue W-2s and 1099s by January 31st, but people will start getting those a little bit earlier as well. And then 1099 forms have the same filing requirements. So yeah, between now and kind of middle of February, either your email inbox or your mailbox is going to be loaded with tax forms.
Yeah, and I would tell people in this paperless environment that we're in, and everything's going electronic. I think, and this is my opinion, though, you can get your statements, your prospectuses, all those things electronically, but your tax documentation, you should probably switch that to paper. So a lot of people don't know that is that within your brokerage firm, you can choose and select which documents you get electronic and which ones you get paper. Tax documents, I personally prefer them in paper, so that way I realize, all right, here's a document that I needed, and I'm not going on this goose chase to figure out where these documents are. So there's four key 1099 documents, right? That most people will get, right, Kyle?
Yeah, I think 4 or 5 are kind of the major ones that affect most people based on which type of account you have and which activity you have during the year. But yeah, four
Yeah.
or five are probably the main ones that everyone should be somewhat familiar with.
So let's put those up on the screen here. So let's walk through this first one. Which one is this?
This is a classic 1099B form. So this will detail all of your sales, stock sales that you had in your taxable brokerage accounts throughout the year. So this one has a couple of calls and other stock sales down here, but yeah, any activity where you had sales during the year will be reported on this. And the main thing that I look for as these forms come in is your cost basis numbers. I think the proceeds numbers are usually pretty accurate. That just ties to the cash that you received. But sometimes brokers don't have accurate cost basis information, or maybe this number here doesn't tell the whole story. So, the first thing I look at when clients send this over is the cost basis information. Make sure that nothing's missing, and that the numbers are kind of in line with what you'd expect for the year. So, looking at the price on March 18th versus April 17th, that's probably correct. Without looking at the specific stock's price throughout this time, but these are in line with what I'd expect.
Yeah, and I think there's a big thing here, Kyle, because what was it, before 2012, it was your responsibility to track the cost basis, and then in 2012, it became the brokerage firm's responsibility something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and so you'll see where it says box 3, basis reported to the IRS. The IRS has this information, this basis information, whereas, like you said, pre-2012, that wasn't the case. So if you report basis something different than what's on here, the IRS may or may not question that number. So it's just really important to have your basis information tied down, because the IRS does have more information than they used to 10 years ago. So
Yeah. And it's one of those things that, like, if you're selling a security where you don't know the cost basis, right? You got to do your best guess or and whatnot, because most brokerage firms, they'll just put the gross proceeds here, right? They'll put nothing in the cost basis. So it's you have to go through this to make sure you add the cost basis.
absolutely. And so then that's probably, one of the main forms, in terms of volume that I get throughout the year. Probably the next one is the 1099R. This says 2015, but this form really hasn't changed in the last 5 years. But this is the form that you'll receive for retirement distributions or rollovers. And yeah, just double checking that the taxable amount and the gross distribution numbers are correct. If there was withholding, that'll be here. If you have a retirement plan at work, this box may or may not be checked. And this will tell you the story on what the IRS gets in terms of what they think should be the taxable amount or non-taxable amounts from your retirement accounts.
Sounds good. And so there's another form that's related to IRAs and qualified plans that comes out sometime around May. It's 5498, right, Kyle?
Yeah, and so those are helpful forms to have for tax planning purposes, just to know how much, what your balance is in your IRA, and kind of if you should do a Roth conversion this year, or maybe what your pending RMDs could be in your retirement years, things like that. But yeah, those aren't explicitly needed for me typically, but always nice to have. So
yeah.
Provide it to your CPA if you have them.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next 1099. So it's probably interest, right? Is the next most popular one that you get?
Yep. And so in terms of volume, this is a standard 1099 I'd get for mostly, banking accounts, checking accounts, saving accounts. If you have more than $10 of interest income, those will be reportable to the IRS, and you'll get this form. And even if something has, $20 or $30 of interest income, you still need to capture it, because this form also goes to the IRS, and maybe they'll send you a matching notice or some letter you have for some nominal amount here. So even if the numbers are immaterial, you still want to gather all these forms every year. And then, another popular one is 1099 div. So if you receive dividends in your taxable brokerage accounts or some other stock that you might hold separately, it'll come through on this form. And then another form that's maybe not has to do with your brokerage accounts, but this is the 1099 misc. So if you received anything as a other income, or kind of a catch-all, or non-employee compensation, a lot of things will come through on this form, and these are also really important to capture everything, even if the amounts are nominal. So
yeah, and I think the biggest thing here is that you don't have to know every single piece of these forms, right? You have to work with the CPA like Kyle to really put these forms, make sure the numbers are correct when you're inputting them. A lot of people that use TurboTax can pull directly from those file sources, but some of those numbers could be wrong, right? So there's another check and balance that you may want to do out there.
Yeah, I think for the most part, 1099B is probably the one to scrutinize the most, followed by your 1099R probably. These, the interest and dividends ones usually come through correct for the most part, and there's not, basis numbers or other things to track. But on a form like this, obviously you can see there's a lot more information on it. And so there's just more avenues there to, misreport something or have something incorrect.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, I think that was good. So, like, this is just, I think the next question here is just like when you're ready to go to see your CPA, you have all these files. What else should you bring, Kyle, for like tax prep 101?
Yeah, I think W-2s, 1099s are the most basic. And then if you're self-employed, just having your P&L all tied down and making sure that, you're capturing all the expenses that you can get. And like you said, working with a CPA like myself or some other professional will help you take advantage of all the deductions or credits that you are entitled to. So
Cool. I think that's a good place to end it. So if you have any questions or any ideas for future videos, please leave it in the comments below. Again, we want to keep this a conversation, and we'll talk to you or see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Have a good
Yep.
good 2022. Thank you.